There I am. So I'm an enterprise solutions engineer. So that means that for our larger potential customers, I help gather the requirements, configure a demonstration for them, do a couple demos, and then, obviously they all become Zoho customers after that. The big thing that I use to help in my demos is going to be Canvas. Everybody at Zoho knows I'm the biggest Canvas fanboy out there. So what are we going to be covering? We're going to, of course, tell you about Canvas. What is it and why does it matter within the system? Where it can be used. So we're constantly adding new areas where Canvas can be used. It was list views, it was custom list views, it's detail pages, and there's more coming. How can it be used? So this is, of course, important. We're not just creating a real pretty UI, but we're actually designing one that works better for you guys. I'm going to go in and actually show you the software because I think that's the best way to kind of get familiar with it. There is a little bit of a learning curve with Canvas if anybody has tried to use it. So we're going to go over some tips and tricks to kind of get you started, keep you from getting frustrated, and then we're going to talk about some of the things that are coming in Canvas in the future. All right, so this is probably the best way to see what Canvas is. It's taking that standard view that you guys have in CRM, whether that's a meeting, whether that is a contact record or an account record, and turning it into this, right? So this is one that I've created. This is one that you guys are going to be able to actually access because I'm going to give you the import keys after this, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the idea is designing your own CRM. So why did we come up with Canvas? So sales teams, not just sales teams, I'm in pre-sales. So one of the big things that I struggle with is, of course, Zoho uses our CRM system. There's tons of fields out there for sales, right? There's some out there for marketing. The fields that I need are very, very minimal. So when I open up a CRM, it's overwhelming. But with Canvas, I can have my own canvas, and then I see that record exactly the way that works for me. So there's too much clutter in CRM. Just like I said, there's a lot of things that I'm not using, but I have to see them every time I open up a record. I don't need 50 fields, like I was saying. I only need a few fields out there, but we've got them all. We see them every time. The other big thing with Canvas that I think people don't focus on is that when you're in a record, there are processes that you're doing. There's steps that you guys go through to perform quoting, to do customer excellence, things like that. So designing a canvas to match the pipeline of how you think and how you work. And then Canvas solves all these problems by making the CRM simpler, more focused, and easier to use, of course. So ways Canvas can solve those problems, I kind of talked about these already, but showing only sales relevant data, or for me, pre-sales relevant data, or marketing data, creating a deal opportunity view that really helps you close the deal, right? Not just data fields, but actual processes baked into that canvas out there. Maybe a key account sort of strategy. So like I said, customer excellence or key accounts for account managers, logging in, looking at an account, and then dealing with them appropriately because the canvas is made to work for you. And then, of course, creating those different roles or views for different roles. Like I said, pre-sales, mine looks completely different. It's a drag and drop editor, of course, right? So kind of true Zoho fashion, we can drag and drop the fields into this view, add different tabs and sections. So when you guys look at the standard view in the CRM right now, it's all these related lists on the side. You have to scroll and scroll and scroll. So we can now add tabs to it to separate our data so that you just go exactly where you want really quickly. Of course, you can do all of the fonts, the colors, the padding, the background manipulation, images, all kinds of good stuff. Once you create these components, then you can reuse them. So if you want to use it for leads, contacts, accounts, make them reusable components, and then you can add them to another canvas in the future. And then Canvas rules, I think, is one of the least used but most effective tools out there. So changing the way the data is viewed based on values on that record, right? So I have an example coming up about overdue account, right? Make it real bright, big red when you get to that overview account out there. So this is the Canvas promise. The truth is, so faster implementation after you've created the canvas, right? So it does take some time to create that canvas, but once you have, it's a much easier system to use for everybody who's logging into it. We have just seen massive increased adoption of the software. It looks pleasant. It feels good to be in there. It sounds silly, but when people enjoy being in an application, of course, they're going to use it more often. The other one is healthier database. So for our larger companies, we might have hundreds of fields out there. It's not always easy to find the right one. So with Canvas, there's some data manipulation stuff we can do, but putting data in the right fields, of course, ultimately creates a better database, better reporting, better analytics, everything like that. And then all of these things, in turn, can increase your ROI. So where can it be used in the system? We'll look at these in the actual software out here as well. So when you go open your contacts or you open your accounts, right now they're in a list view. This is a custom list view, so we're not using columns anymore. We're creating a canvas, putting those fields, they're in the exact same place at the same time. You do lose some of the sorting options with this view, but it works really good, especially if you're dealing with fewer customers, right? You really want to have kind of that personal, see their picture if they're integrating with social media, whatever it might be. This is the tile view, so this one works really well with products. I actually live in between Houston and Austin. I have a little farm, so that's why we have cow products out here, but it is what it is. So that is the tile view, really just putting that data exactly where you are, right? If sales reps or sales answers a phone call and they want to really quickly go out there and view that data, that tile view works well. So the table view is kind of a hybrid of your existing list view and the canvas view because we can stack on top of each other. Here you can see the name of the product and some details beneath it, but then we can still sort. We can still arrange this data, so the table view is out there. And then, of course, most popular is going to be the detail view. So this is, once the record is actually open, this is all of the data that you need in one spot. We're going to talk about this a lot more. Also, this is new, mobile view. So I actually really like our mobile app and the way that it is. I sit there and drink my coffee in the morning, catching up with everything. But the mobile view can even transform that, right? You can put all of that data exactly where you want on your phone so that you don't have to scroll through everything. This is, I think, the most recent feature and my absolute favorite one. I think one of the things was we create this really pretty detailed view of that record out there, but when we edit that screen, it looks completely different, right? Or if we're creating a new record, it looks completely different. So now we can do form views. This actually has some really good templates out there we'll take a look at out of the box. So just honestly, just fire one up and get started. So what are some of the basic things that it can do? Of course, we're going to be able to drag fields in there. We're going to be able to do the tabs, but now you can add, of course, branding and styling. So put your logo in there, make it really feel immersive to what you guys are doing. Put the branding colors, everything like that. The conditional formatting is going to be the example that I had, right? So this customer is overdue, so make it bright and red on the top. So when you first log in, that's the first thing you see out there. The reusable components, like I told you about, these are some that are in Canvas that you can actually use right out of the box, but creating those, repurposing them, reusing them on every canvas that you're created, and interactive buttons. So in the standard detail view, you guys can create custom buttons, but they're all in a drop-down. So this way you can kind of put them all across the top. You can hide them if certain actions don't need to be done or they can't be done at that certain stage. Again, we'll look at all this in the actual software. And this is where, in my opinion, things get really fun for a solution engineer because we can take extensions and widgets and embed them at the size that you want them to. So if we were looking at this map view as a widget in the standard view, it would take up the entire width. But here I've kind of scaled it down, made it fit there with the address, and you can see that information. So we'll look at this in the live piece as well. So some of the advanced things that it can do, and this is using client scripts. So if you're not familiar with client scripts, it is a piece of JavaScript code that can execute dynamically while you're actually using the software. So it can perform a function when you change the field, when you open up a page. Anyway, some of the things that you can do are masking fields out there. So if you have a social security number, you have a mother's maiden name, things that you don't want people walking by to see, or you're sharing your screen with somebody else, now you can mask those, and then people are going to have to click on it to actually view that or edit that value out there. Action-based pop-ups. With the introduction of Canvas and client scripts, now we have a lot of different things that we can do within the software, creating pop-ups, collecting information. Well, again, we'll look at this actually happening out there. We can add tooltips to the canvas. So down here is kind of an example of a tooltip. When we're talking about onboarding your existing coworkers, new employees, we have in the application, putting tooltips, of course, on everything, or the things that are meaningful, are going to give people a really good understanding of what happens, and then you can turn those off after they've been with the company for a while. So I put a lot of tooltips out there. And then flyout widgets. So this is actually a window that will fly into the view that has additional data. So maybe it's coming from a third party, or it's coming from another module. It'll make more sense when we look at it out there. So you guys probably already saw this in the keynote this morning. So this is AI image to canvas. So this was a chat GPT, and I'm just going to do the video since we've already seen it, taking an image and turning that into the actual canvas. So you can size it. So if you want those cards to be a lot smaller, taking that information, creating a canvas, and then you don't have to design it from scratch. So it just kind of does its thing, and then it's there, right? It looks pretty close to what we fed into it, and then you associate the data fields with that canvas that we have out there. So I know you already saw that, so we won't go too far into it. So Zoho's Canvas roadmap, we just saw the image to canvas, so I was able to add the live tab above that. Canvas interactions are coming. So Canvas interactions are, you guys know when you hover over an account record or a contact record and you get that little pop-up with some data? So you're going to be able to configure that screen and make it look exactly the way that you want out there through interactions. So I think that's kind of neat. We're limited to what we can view in that little pop-up. It's very helpful, but if we could manipulate the way that we want it to, then it's going to be even more helpful. So custom CSS, for those who don't know, CSS is cascading style sheets. It's a web developer sort of term for a settings page that exists that website accesses to control the way that website looks, right? So if you have branding colors, you're going to set those in your cascading style sheet. And every time you add a new component to Canvas, it's going to reference that. So when we're out here and we're going to walk through a demo of creating a canvas from scratch, you guys are going to see that it's a little time consuming getting all of the elements to look the same. This CSS is really going to help us with that. Mail merge, if you use it in CRM, it takes data from the CRM system and puts it into a Zoho Writer document. So it's real nice if you're creating contracts, if you're doing any sort of print, flyers, things like that. We're going to be able to do that in Canvas now as well. So taking that data, putting it directly into a print view, and then you guys can print that out. My favorite upcoming is going to be dashboard canvas. So this is right now when I'm demoing solutions to people, I get pretty creative with the dashboards, but I do find some limitations, right? I really want to be able to change the way that all of these different components out there, the views, my tasks, everything look. And this is going to make it so I can do that. So if there's CRM product team people in here, bring this to me quickly, because that is absolutely my favorite. Versioning support, right? As you guys are adding new canvases, you can see those versions. So if we have like a test group or a pilot group, or we're rolling these out live, and somebody said, well, I liked the way it was before, you can actually roll back to that now. You can see all of those different versions that you guys had out there. So I'm going to leave this slide up and I'm going to jump into the demo. So I gave you guys a website up here. I'm going to show you guys how you can import canvases into your system. And I have all of these keys for these canvases I've created that you guys can import. So if you see anything you like, I've got them out on this website, and you guys will be able to just import these keys. One catch to that is they're only good for 7 days. So if you don't get to it within 7 days, I'll have to refresh those. So you can email me, and we can do all that. But all right, so let's go look at the actual software. So this is what you guys are probably used to if you're not using Canvas. Well, I should stop there and say, who is using Canvas? Is anybody in the room actively using it? I see a few hands. Has anybody tried to use it and it made you angry? Okay. There's a few more. So hopefully we can kind of help you guys get through that learning curve. I know I've really sort of taken Canvas as my baby because I really like the way that it works. You know, once you get something very, very productive out there, I use it in all my demos. But I do realize there's a learning curve. So hopefully I can help you with some things. If you guys want to, any gripes you guys want to give me, certainly do, because I'm in direct contact with the Canvas team because I want to make it as good as it can. So this is the standard list view, right? We can sort, we can do all of that. The custom list view out here is going to be that one that we had looked at. So I'm actually in a financial account. So this is a demo that I configured for banking for credit unions. So when we look at Skip out here on the top, you can see that we can see his balance information. So pulling data from their banking software and viewing it out here. Credit card information, loan information, contact information, all of that good stuff. So just kind of a nice view. If you don't want to actually open up that record, you just kind of want to peruse through everything. The other one is going to be that table view that I told you can kind of be the hybrid. So if you like using the standard list view, but you don't like the way it looks, or you want to add some sort of flair to it, you can create a table view, and then you have those same sort of sorting options. You can still do multi-select and things like that out there. I really like the table view. I use that one quite a bit. And of course, it's kind of on brand for what we're doing, making everything look the same. I'll click on tile view out here, but I didn't create one because this is what we use the AI to tile. There's a bunch of decent templates out here. So when you create tile view, you'll be able to select a template from some of these that we've already created. So if this makes sense for you, there is Gary Schubert. So this came into the system and it has some of these values are actually incorrect. So we'll have to come out here and change a field to maybe the contact image, right? So the image of the actual person. So once you've done that, we'll actually get into these templates a little bit more. I'm going off course, so we'll go ahead and not save that. We also have, once I open up one of these records, and I'm going to go back to my custom list view. So I'm going to open up Skip Nicholson's record out here. And again, I told you guys this was for banking system. So this is one that I have configured. Of course, it's got all of the banking stuff. There's that mother's maiden name that is masked out there on the top. We have the ability to do tabs. So down here, in the middle, we have horizontal tabs that will put data separated by the way that you guys want to view it, right? So I have some of their basic customer information here. I have some address information. I'm using a widget, like I said, for that map. So I'm taking that address and actually putting it directly into the Google map. We can also see other related lists, and I'm going to kind of show off one of the little pop-up things. So in banking, it would be pretty common that we might have an alert. So I'm just going to create a new alert out here, and we'll save this. So somebody walks into the bank. Every time we open that up, we want to get an alert so that we don't overlook it. So now if I do a quick little refresh, we're going to get that pop-up that I was telling you guys about that says we have a new alert. So maybe we need a driver's license for that person because it's expired or something like that, right? So giving a lot of value to what we're looking at. I'm going to remove that so it doesn't drive us crazy throughout the rest of the demo. We also have vertical tabs. So on this top example here, you can see all of those sort of chosen data fields that I've set, but we can also just change that maybe and see some life events, right? So this is creating a card out of a related list, and now we can see all of the life events for that customer. There are a few other things that I have, assets and liabilities. So this is actually pulling from subforms. So you can change the way those look in the system as well. Down here at the bottom, I have credit cards. So this credit card is an example of, again, a related list, and now I can see those images of those cards. Of course, this is great for banking people. You guys would use it very, very differently. If I go to the bottom, so we had talked about different people having access to different canvases. So if somebody in marketing logs in and they want to market to this person, we might want their system to look very different. So we have multiple canvases, and we can assign those canvases to different people by role. So that same customer might have an extremely different view. And this is actually the canvas that I have that link to out there. It's kind of branded for the new CRM for everyone a little bit. But here we can see that top conditional formatting where it is overdue. So if I change this customer to active, the red goes away, right? If it's overdue, it's going to pop up. It's going to be bright red. We also have some scoring rules, cadences, right? So the idea is just taking all of that data that you guys used to scroll through and putting it in a very meaningful way for your users to access. All right, so some of the other things are, we have an account view. So this is another one that I put out there for you guys to actually jump into. And I'm going to go back to Skip and go to his account. So here is Coca-Cola is who he works for. So we have very similar. You guys are going to have access to this one as well. But I have all of the opportunities out here. We also have, I told you guys about widgets. So these are some custom code that will maybe embed some charts or graphs or really dig into the details about that person, giving you guys some specifics. The other thing that you guys can do here is embed Zoho Analytics. So if you're a CRM Plus customer or a Zoho One customer, you guys already have analytics, and you can embed those analytics dashboards directly into your CRM. All right. So let's go ahead and create a new canvas from scratch. And I went into the settings, and we'll take a look at some of the options that we have out here. And we will search for canvas. All right, so here are the list views that we took a look at, the tile view, the table view, the custom list views. We also have the detail view, so that's what we were just looking at out here. And here is the mobile view. So I already have one set up, but I do just kind of want to show you real quickly what these could look like. I'm going to create a new mobile view for contacts. And we're going to have quite a few, I think, pretty decent starting templates out here for the mobile view. So this one looks pretty similar to what we already have in the mobile version of the CRM. This one out here, of course, another way to view that data. So seeing all of that information, and then, really kind of looking a little funky here with this one. So a lot that you guys can do with mobile view. We're going to create our canvas from scratch for the detail view, but I do want to show you guys the form view. This is the edit page or the create screen. So if we're creating a brand new contact, I think these templates are actually very, very decent out of the box. So one that I use pretty often is something like this. So taking really segmented data when you're creating these records, just showing those fields that you guys need to see. There's so many fields out there in your CRM that you guys don't use. So if you're creating a residential customer or a commercial customer, only show me those fields that I need to with some of that conditional formatting out there. So I think these are really nice to kind of get you guys started. It's a good place to sort of play around with when you guys are out there. But let's go ahead and get into the meat of some of the tips and tricks and showing you guys the way I might create a brand new canvas. So we're going to do a detail view. You can do it directly from here, create record detail page. I actually like to do it from the customer record, and I'll show you why. When I go to skip, and we'll open skip up again, if I create my canvas from this customer, it's going to use his information. If I create it from the settings, it's going to grab the most recent record, and that might not have a lot of data, brand new customer. This one's got everything. So I'm going to use this one. Down here at the bottom, create a custom record page, and then here's all of the templates. So there's quite a few out here. I could use one and manipulate it, but I'm going to show you guys creating one from scratch. Of course, we're not going to walk all the way through that. Probably the people who've tried to create a canvas know that that's not going to happen in the, 20-some minutes that we have left here. So we do have some templates to get you guys started if you want to play around with it, but we are just going to create a blank canvas. So the reason I want to show this to you is obviously some things that I've learned through doing it, but also show you some of the newer features for those of you that are using it. We have some new responsive actions out here. So starting on the left, all of the data fields for this record are going to show up. So I have all of my fields, and we can just drag and drop these directly into the canvas. It's going to get pretty sloppy, so we won't do that yet. But we also have all of the related lists. So related lists, so you have notes, you have open activities, any extensions that you guys might have created. Every one of those related list items in your view now is going to be visible here for related list. And then actions and buttons. So actions are going to be some of the standard pieces that you've created, maybe some custom buttons down here at the bottom that I've created. So let's go ahead and get started with an element, and we'll look at a couple different. So you guys already saw that I kind of like to do that header to put my buttons on. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag and drop a section. It's going to auto-fill the entire width of where I drag it to the right. So the next thing I might do is add some background color. So we'll just select a color out here. And now I want to add some buttons. So back to my data, we'll need to edit this record. We'll need to clone it. We'll need to follow it. And maybe we'll need to send an email. So I kind of drug these in here willy-nilly, and what we're going to do is use some of the alignment features to just line everything up. So if I just drag and drop and grab all of these buttons, now we have multiple options over here on the left, so I can align them in the center, and then I can also distribute them horizontally. So just, some of the standard design features are going to be out there, and also I can just grab and bring these all the way down to the bottom. The other thing I can do, and this is, again, a newer feature, is if I, depending if you're Mac or Apple, if you right-click or control-click, I can convert this into a flex container, and it will distribute them based on settings that I have over here. So if I want to increase the height of this, the distance between the two, then I can do it over here. If I want to align them all the way to the right, we can do it over here. So we'll talk a little bit more about flex, but I'm going to leave those buttons. Maybe we want to, color something a little bit differently so we can really get into those. But the new flex box is kind of one of the greatest things out there that solves a problem that we had in Canvas of things not being responsive. So as you're building, in this case, we're going to have kind of a contact card here on the left. it was a little bit difficult to get everything aligned, right? Different resolutions on your screen would mess them up or whatever it might be. So this is going to make everything that we put into it extremely responsive. So now if I grab my data fields, maybe I want to have the contact image, right? So a picture of the person. You can see that it's actually taking those and aligning them and distributing them because we are in a Flexbox. So it kind of does all of that for me. The other things that we can do are go back. Now we can align everything in the center or top center. We can increase that distribution. That's not going to work out. Increase that distribution and separate them out a little bit more. So the Flexbox just gives a lot of really good responsive action. And then you can even click this button here and make it auto-responsive. So it'll wrap text, it'll increase the size, decrease the size based on what you guys are looking at. So the Flexbox is my new favorite thing. We can also make these fit the width, which doesn't work out with that image, but just a lot of different things you can do here. All right, so let's go ahead and look at some other elements like tabs. Of course, we might want to have tabs with different data. So I grabbed tab and drug it over here to the right. And now we're going to put different data fields on these tabs. So another element is a table. So if I want to just have some of those contact fields out here, we'll drag and drop a table. And now we can drag our data fields. So first name, of course, last name. We're not going to go on and on with this. I can also increase the number of columns. But then this brings us to another point, which are presets or reusable components in the system. So presets will now be available for that table. Anything that I've created, we can see on the left. Anything in the gallery, and I actually didn't click on my table here. And I want to, so a tip would be, if you guys don't know already, is that it's all going to have undo buttons. So you can just do Control-Z and undo what you guys are doing, or I can't even think of what it is in a PC out there. So you can undo things, and we can copy things. So we'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. I'm going to add some of my related lists out here, like scoring fields, cadences, notes, and just keep going, right? So we can add all kinds of different related list fields, add these fields out here to the table. And then some of the other elements are, we might want to go ahead and do our logo. So when you drag and drop things into the canvas, whatever is blue, whatever is highlighted blue is where that object is going. In this case, I can't drag and drop it onto that header because it's too big. So I actually have to resize it. And now it highlights blue. That means it's going to go on top of that. So I can upload an image, bring in my fake bank out here, change it to contain, and now we have our logo. All right, some of the other elements, of course, are going to be icons, buttons. There's a few other elements out here I'll just talk about because they're kind of advanced features. On the left, you can see queries, and in here you can see field and list. So a query in our system is a way to search either the Zoho system for specific records. So if I'm talking about banking in this case, I want to see all of my accounts that are overdrawn or all of my accounts that are over a certain balance. I can create a query which uses some coding to find all of those accounts, sort them out. The other thing it can do is it can bring data from a third-party system. So those queries have full access to the API, and now I can see all of my invoices from NetSuite or from QuickBooks or whatever it might be out there. So. And then you can bring in individual fields for those lists, for the different components that are coming from that actual query out there. All right, so let's go ahead and just add some really simple data fields out here. So if I just bring in first name again and last name, and I really want to change the way that this field looks, I'm going to go ahead and give it a white background. We'll go ahead and increase the padding. and we will, this is do better than me, guys, honestly. So we'll pick that. We can increase the radius so that it has some rounded corners. And then once that's been created, again, use your, in my case, Command-C or your Control-C to copy it. You can come over to another element and paste it. Oh, if I did it right, Control-C, Control-V. And it's going to copy that formatting, so hopefully save you guys a lot of time. The other thing you can do is for similar elements, you can multi-select, change them all at the same time, so you're not doing one at a time. And then we'll also look at some of that conditional formatting. So I have this, let's use something other than first name out here. We'll come out and do lead source. So here is a lead source, and I am going to control click on this, and I am going to add conditional styling. So when I create a canvas rule, this is going to set the parameters that are going to change what this field is. So if that lead source is, and we'll set our criteria, say lead source is, I think it was set on public relations, then we'll say demo. Now I have that tab for that condition, and I'm going to set the way that that field looks when that condition is met. So when the lead source equals public relations, then make the font bright red. Let's make it quite a bit bigger. And then when, by default, if that value or that condition is not met, now we have some different, now it's going to look completely different out there. So you can add as many conditional styling options as you want. If every time you change that value, you want that color to change, you want that, the image or the way that that is viewed to change, you can definitely do that. So over here on the left, here are some other reusable components that we can just drag and drop out here and reuse these. So as you're creating them, they're all going to be saved out here in your gallery, things that you guys can use. All right, so I am going to go to that website, and I am going to show you guys how you can import these canvases. This is actually a newer feature as well. My fingers don't work on stage. They really don't. Okay, Zoho presalesdemo.com. There is a tab up here that is Zoholics 2025, and I just created these record template keys earlier today. So if you guys go out here, you'll have access to them, and you can import them into your system. So let me do. Let's use an example. We'll go ahead and grab this key, and I'm going to go back into the CRM, and we'll create a new canvas out of that. So now I'm going to go into the settings, and we'll go to the canvas section. Under detailed view, and this is one of the things that a lot of people kind of miss, is that it defaults to the list view. That key I gave you is not going to work in the list view. So make sure you go to the detail view tab, and then there is a drop down, and you can import this canvas template. So if I paste this out here, select my module, maybe we want to reuse that and put it in for leads, then click import. It's going to take that, apply it to my data set, and then now we can modify it, right? So one of the things it's not going to do is it's not going to bring in that logo because that's not in that file. So you might have to come out here, of course, add your logo in here, and now view it this way, but you guys can import these templates. So the big thing is that when you import these templates, you guys might not want to use them right away. You're going to have to do some testing. So when you save this, and we'll again call this demo, you are going to get a Canvas assignment tab. So unless you're ready to roll this out, don't do anything here. But when you're ready for each one of the roles, in this case, administrator, standard, client portal, you can switch them over to that canvas. In this case, that new demo one that I use. So now every time I open a contact record, if I'm any of these roles, it will be this new version of Canvas that I've just created.
Well, Nathan, we thank you. This was
Thank
an
you.
excellent session. We all learned a lot about Canvas.